Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the eBay Resale Zone podcast. This is where we talk all things eBay. In today's video, we talk about how to make time and how to stay motivated when listing things on eBay. Enjoy.
Hey guys, Jeff here with Resale Heroes, and I'm here with Commonlad.
Hey guys, I'm the Commonlad. I sell video games on eBay with my partner RESALE.
Yeah, and we're also full-time resellers on eBay in Canada. And so today, on this episode of the eBay Resale Zone, pointing upwards with editing magic. Yeah. We're going to be talking about how to carve margin into your busy life, or in other words, how to make time for what matters in your business when you're busy. I mean, who's not busy? And I don't know if you want to start with the point or if you want me to start. It's up to you.
I could start. I mean, I want to say that I think we're approaching the end of the year, and that means that we're starting the new year, which means I think for a lot of people, a new year comes with New Year resolutions, which I hate saying that word because nobody ever sticks to them. And like, I'm one that's like totally against New Year's resolution. I'm like, if I want to start something, I'm going to start now, not on January 1st. But regardless, it's a time when you should reconsider potentially what you're spending your time on and where you're making your money, and potentially come up with a new strategy or plan or goals to build on and to reach going into next year. And I think that's kind of what we're going to talk about today is, again, how to really optimize your time and how to maybe get to some of those goals that you're setting, and how to figure out how to plan everything and fit everything into a busy schedule.
Yeah, I'm excited. I like talking about this stuff. So, and we're going to be sharing our experience and like the way that we do things and different kinds of tips. And everyone may have different people may have a different approach that works for them better. But make it your own and give it some thought. But so you mentioned resolutions, and I don't know what the exact statistics are, but I want to say at least 3/4 of New Year's resolutions never happen. Like people, there's a difference between a resolution and a dream and a goal. So a resolution is, New Year's coming along, people are having a drink or having a smoke, and they're like, oh, I want this year to be different. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to stop smoking. I want to stop drinking. I want to make more money. I want a new car. I want this. I want that, whatever. So it starts with good intentions and a little bit of motivation. But ultimately, you're going to come up with some resistance. You're going to not want to wake up that morning and go to the gym. You are going to get that craving for smoke or whatever it is, whatever. And most people, I'll say maybe 3/4, maybe it's even 90% of New Year's resolutions never come to fruition over long term. Like maybe the first month or two, you're good. But then because you don't have like a plan or an overarching reason that you've pounded into your mindset, you really don't have a reason that's strong enough to keep you going, and then people stop. So then there's a dream, which is something you've wanted for a long time, and you want it so bad you can almost taste it. But until you have a plan, again, it's just like a glorified resolution that's throughout the whole year. And a goal is a very specific thing that you want to get to, that you want to achieve, but to achieve the goal, you need to have a plan. You need to have the steps to get there. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, there's macro goals and there's micro goals, and there's all these things that you have to focus on to eventually get to what is the overarching sort of accomplishment, or like you say, the dream or whatever it is that you're going for.
We're taking today.
Absolutely. And so on the daily, you need to focus on what are the goals for this week? What's the goal for today? What's the goal for this hour? Are we going to try to get 60 listings up? Maybe not in 1 hour, but you know what I mean? So it's all about building those and then making sure that all of those micro goals correspond with the macro. And a cool thing that I've heard it a few times on the internet is you need to hustle on the daily. So you need to be really quick or whatever and try to get everything done on the daily. But the long-term goal has to be slow. So it's going to be a slow process going up to whatever it is. And that's going to be the reality, I think, in whatever you're trying to do. But I think as long as you're focused on trying to get it done on the daily and trying to work on those goals, then I think you're going to have a pretty good shot at getting to the macro, as long as they all align and they're all sort of going towards one thing.
Yeah, so there's so much we want to talk about. So I think the first thing we need to consider, and we will get to how to make time out of nothing, but I think the first thing we need to consider is, what is your goal with your eBay store,
Mm.
with your eBay presence? Is it to make $100 a week so that you can pay off a couple bills? That's not complicated. If you want to keep it small, that's totally cool. Is it to build a part-time income so that you can, help at the household, or is it to have a full-time income? Because those different goals will require different actions and different quantity of time. But so you need to be honest with yourself with, okay, what do I really want out of this business or this hobby? And what am I willing to invest into it time-wise to get there? So I'll say I'm going to be operating under the assumption that people, again, have a small business with eBay, that they want to get it to a certain level that's like a mid-level income, like maybe just a small business income. And to do that, you need to find time in your day to do certain things almost every day, or as often as you can permit yourself. So of course, there's different, like some people have kids, some people, like most people have a full-time job, and we're assuming, like we're going on the assumption here that time is tight. Usually time is the most valuable resource and the rarest resource. Everyone has only a certain amount of hours in their week. The president, the prime minister, and JF and Commonlad, we all have a certain amount of hours in the week, right? But so it's how you use those hours as efficiently as possible that makes a difference in who we are and what we achieve. So one of the things that has been helpful for us is to kind of make blocks of time for certain tasks. And maybe you can elaborate more on that, since we kind of talked about it earlier.
Yeah, so I think like one of the things that I think we were talking about, and I'll start here because I think that not everybody can jump into like maybe blocking down each 15-minute or an hour section within their day. But I think a place to start is to start with a list. And a list is something that you can write down maybe at the end of every day in terms of what you want to do the next day. I think it's really important to have it done the night before. And it's a list of things that you want to get done the next day. The problem that we find with a list is that you don't always get it done, and there's not always time for everything. But at least with a list, you have a clear indication of what has to get done, and you're not going to get, your brain all busy thinking about, okay, what was that I had to do, and this and that. Like I remember all this stuff, and then something gets forgotten that was actually important, and whatever. So a list is really important. So when I make a list, I'll usually make it for a week or for the next few days, and then I'll actually break it down and put it into a calendar, and then I'll block off time for each one of those activities on the list. But I think for somebody that wants to be a little bit less scheduled and a little bit less, sort of planning out things, a good approach is just to say in the morning, I do eBay, and in the afternoon, I do this. Or I have work between this time and this time. And then every day when I get home from work at 4 o'clock till 6, I do eBay. And then I go and spend time with the family or whatever. But I think having some sort of consistency within your time and some sort of repetition as well is really important for actually getting things done. Because again, like we talked about, you can have the goal of listing 15 things, but if there's not a time allocated to get those 15 things listed every day, then it's not going to happen. And so it's really important that even with the list, you actually have some sort of time. It doesn't have to be written down and all planned out in a calendar, but it has to be allocated at some point in that day so it actually gets completed.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a saying in the business world: if it's not on the schedule, it never happens. And if it's not top of mind, you're going to forget it. Like there's so many things to consider, so many things to remember. And no matter how good your memory is, you can only handle so much in your mind, because you're not in a vacuum in your own little life. There's all this other stuff happening, and you're bombarded with all this other information. So the first thing, we need to start with, where can you find time? All right. So I'm assuming you've got a busy schedule, you've got work, you've got whatever it is your life looks like, you already have a schedule and you're busy and you don't know where you could find more time. So for me, a big part of this that's been helpful for me was to work on self-care, which we're not going to go into too much detail there, but what that means is basically eat better, exercise a little bit, and sleep better. So by being better with your sleep, you're going to have better energy throughout your day. You'll be more vibrant. So you'll feel stronger and you can tackle more in your day. So by going to bed earlier, if you can, you'll be able to get up earlier if you want, and maybe have a half hour in the morning before the craziness starts, before the kids get up, maybe an hour. Maybe you want to be hardcore about it and get up 2 hours earlier and go all out. But some people prefer to do things at night when everybody went to bed. You can go on a little longer. But you got to think about what's a little chunk of time that I could take out every day to do, again, whether it's a half hour or an hour or 2 hours, like whatever your life looks like, to do a few listings, to do a little bit of sourcing, to do whatever needs to get done with the business. And there are many ways to carve out time in your schedule if you really think about it. How much TV do you watch? I think an average person in North America watches something like, is it 3 hours a day of TV or 4 hours a day? Like, that's average.
Yeah. And we take in YouTube and social media and all these extra things.
Watching our videos. Don't cut those out.
Don't stop watching, but maybe wait till the end and then you can implement all this.
Listen to us while you're working. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
But so how much of that are you doing? What's stuff that's in your schedule that's not helping you towards your goals that you can cut out? You don't have to cut it all out, but maybe you could carve a little bit of that out and put time for your eBay thing or whatever platform you're on. And that would be a good way to be like, oh, all of a sudden I have an hour a day that I can work on this. And an hour a day, even if that's all you got, that can go a long way if you didn't have that time before.
Yeah, I knew somebody in school that did most of their textbook reading and homework on the bus ride home because they were that driven and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, maybe you're not taking pictures of items on a train, but when you're sitting there on the way home, maybe you could be completing some drafts or whatever. Like, find time wherever it is and figure out how you can optimize and utilize it. Because again, I think a lot of people are underutilizing their time. And like you say, like, you could be listening right now while you're listening to this podcast. Are you listening right now? Some of you guys are, but some of you guys aren't. And that's sort of the idea, right? It's like, there's time, right? Like, you have time right now if you're listening to this. So that's sort of the point. And I think it's really important that you try to figure out how to optimize that. And again, kind of like you say, it's all about finding time in a busy schedule, because nobody's going to be like, I have 2 hours. Oh yeah, look at this. I have 2 hours every Tuesday that I'm not doing anything. It's like, nobody's going to have that. I know, like, we know your schedule is going to be busy. It's just about figuring out what stuff you can cut out without, again, affecting, like, we're not trying to say like, you can't do anything fun. You can't spend any time with your family and all this stuff. Like, we're not being that hardcore. In fact, like you said, we're all about, self-care and having that time to actually spend with whatever and doing stuff that you enjoy, and then having the right amount of sleep. So it's not like you're going to get 4 hours of sleep now after watching this and stay up all
don't
night.
do that.
Like, that's not what we're saying.
Yeah, don't do that. There's actually books out there, motivational books, that are talking about just getting 4 hours of sleep and getting an extra 4 hours of work done. That's not for everybody. You are not a Navy SEAL. You're not built for that. You could do that for a season, maybe for a couple of days, for a week, but eventually you'll burn out. So you want to avoid something like that. Getting the right amount of sleep is so important. Like, a big part of this, at least for me, is managing your energy and managing your motivation. Because if you're tired all the time, I mean, you're just going to hate your life, and you're not going to perform in your store, and you're not going to perform at work. You're not going to perform with your family. So a big part of this is knowing yourself a little bit. And what's the time of day that you're the most productive? Start there. Are you productive at night, or do you just crash at night? So if you just crash at night, work in the morning instead. And if you crash at night, though, chances are you're not getting enough recharge in your day.
In the day, yep.
So maybe during your lunch break, I used to do this. During my lunch break, I used to have an hour. I used to bring a lunch pre-prepared. I would eat for like 15 minutes, and then I'd meditate and then like nap for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So good. It is so good.
Love
Even
it.
just closing your eyes for 20 minutes and not having all that stimulus and just listening to calming music, and it makes such a big difference. It sounds silly, but it can really reset you, like before an important meeting or just before you need to get some extra work done.
That stuff's so important. And again, like you say, like coming up with energy, and that might be even increasing the amount of energy that you can create. Like I think people that
Yes.
go to the gym and all these things, you'd think they're more tired, but actually they're building on their stamina and they're able to last, longer throughout the day in terms of the work that they can get done and all that stuff. So it starts with the sleep, because if you don't have the 8 hours of sleep, you're not going to be able to do any. And for some people it's 7, for other people it's 9, whatever it is that you feel like you need. And then, it's about figuring out tasks, like you say, throughout the day that can then increase that endurance, and you can go all day and continue to perform well. And like you say, some people are morning people, which means you're going to want to get up a couple extra hours earlier and get stuff done. And some people are night people, which means that you're going to want to maybe, at 9 p.m. when the kids go to sleep or whatever, that's when you start from 9 to 11 doing some listings.
Yeah. So actually most of my friends are kind of night people. And I wasn't, but I thought I was. But as I was getting older, I was getting more and more tired. And I realized I'm more of a morning person. But with my work, so I used to work full time up until April. So now I'm a full-time reseller. But up until April, like I'd have a full-time job. I had I had people around me, friends and family that I needed to take care of. Like I had a life. Plus I had eBay and YouTube and all that stuff. So my work was about from 12 to 8. Like noon to 8. So I had my mornings to do whatever I wanted with. And so morning's actually my most productive time. So I would do listings, I would do videos, I would do whatever I need to do in the morning. And then I'd have a workout, then I'd have lunch, then I'd take a quick nap or a meditation session. And then I'd have a full day work ahead of me and I'd be good to go. But so that was for me. Like some people work night shifts. Some people, like most people, would do like the 8 to 4 or 9 to 4 kind of thing. But maybe you can have something, answer messages on your lunch break, or wait until after supper. And part of this as well is if you've got people living with you, it's important for them to be on board as well with your dream and what you're trying to achieve. And so if you need an hour in the evening to get stuff done, it's okay to tell them, listen, if there's an emergency, come and see me, but I'm in the zone right now. So from 6 to 7, don't come and bother mom or dad or whatever, like they're working.
Yeah.
And
close your door.
Close your door. Yes. Close your door.
Yeah. Like, because some people are like, leave it open. So hopefully somebody will come in here and interrupt this so I don't have to do it. But it's not about that, right? Close your door and say, I'm sorry, guys, put a little note on your door. I'm working until this time, whatever.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about goals and your why. So this is a concept that is just regurgitated by all motivational speakers. You got to know your why. And I mean, it's important just as a base. So your why is basically why you're doing this. Like, what's your goal? What is your dream? But you need to stay connected to it on a daily or a weekly basis or whatever, just to remind yourself, because not every day is going to be roses and money. Like some days are going to be terrible. And you need to remember on those days why you're doing this. Is it because you want to make a comfortable income that's not like related to a workplace or like an employer, that's on your own so that you can pay for your children's education? Is it so that you can go on that vacation, afford to go on that vacation every year, or like whatever it is for you? What's your dream? What's your goal? And when it gets tough, you can remember it. And when it's good, you can be excited about it, and it'll keep you motivated, because not everyone is naturally motivated. I actually am not. I need to remind myself constantly of why I'm doing things, because I can get discouraged. I can get anxious about things. I can get worried about things. I think that's very common, but I'm just being honest. For me, like, I'm not someone that's going to get up in the morning and be like a rocket of motivation and energy. But when I get up, I have all these reminders that I'm like, okay, right. This is kind of exciting because I'm reminding myself why I'm putting the work in and what the goal is, why I'm doing it, and why it's worth it. Because your dreams are worth it, but you need to put the work in to get there.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people, let's say, are just like, okay, I want to pay off this debt. And so they're doing, $100 a night or whatever. and try and do that. And it can become very discouraging because the why isn't great enough for what they want, but they don't realize what they had to think about is not like, okay, I want to pay off this debt. What you have to think about is how would it feel to not have, the payments, or how would it feel to not have this and have that extra money that you can spend every week? Or going back to your earlier point where it's just like, I want $100 to pay for extra bills. Maybe that's not enough of a why. It's like, yeah, it'd be nice to have that, but whatever, like I'm going to have that money anyway. What I would do is like, so how can you change that goal around to somehow impact your life in a positive way as well? Maybe it's, I want to make, instead of 100, I want to make 150 and go out for dinner once a week. And now you can build a goal around that as well, right? You can still pay the bills, but also have something in addition. But I think it's important to figure out what the overarching goal is. But I think bigger things like, again, paying off your debt to then live a debt-free life or whatever it is, or again, like, I want to make this extra money so I can provide for my family in this way or whatever it is going to result in a better outcome because it's the easier thing to stay motivated towards. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle.
Here's an exercise so I went to a motivational conference once and multiple times, but in this particular one, it was called the Growth Conference. And they had, it was a grouping of many speakers, and they did an exercise that was really profound. And I'm not going to do it here with you, but I'm just going to explain it. And it's called going 7 levels deep. So, for example, if Commonlad and I are talking and I'm kind of trying to motivate him, I'm like, okay, what's your goal? And you give me an answer. And I'm like, why is that your goal? And you're like, well, I want to pay off my debt because I have debt. And it's like, okay, but why is that important to you? Go a little deeper. And then you go a little deeper. So you're like, well, I want to pay it off so that I feel better and that I'm not as stressed. Okay, that's just level 2. That's like, so you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the more you dig, you're thinking, okay, I want to feel better about it because if I don't, so level 3 might be, if I don't feel that way, maybe I'm going to feel like a failure because I have debt. Or if you go a level deeper than that, okay, well, when I was growing up, I really didn't have that much. And we were poor and we were this, and then a level deeper. Oh, I want to be able to donate, like to take care of this family because, and like, I'm getting goosebumps. Actually, the more you think about it, the more you allow yourself to be vulnerable to yourself. Like this isn't something you'd be talking about like on YouTube or whatever, but this is just an exercise for yourself. Go deeper and deeper and deeper until you're like tearing up and like you're really connecting with what's happening. And that is really why you're doing it. And you don't have to act tough. Like just think about it for yourself. And I would suggest you take like a half hour to do that exercise. And that's where you're going to remember something that like, that's where you'll hit gold as far as your why.
Yeah. That's where the sparks come in. And then it's just like, then you're on fire. And I think that's one thing. And then, so I totally agree with that. I think that's super cool. And I think the one major problem when people go into exercise like that and they do all this stuff, which is super cool. Like, you learn all this stuff, you get super motivated, but then after 2 or 3 days, it starts to wear off. And it's like, it's almost like you forget why you're doing it again. And then it's like, you're back to this mundane, same routine, and you're not. So what would you suggest? Because I know maybe you've done more of this motivational conferences than I have, but what would you suggest in terms of once you have that sort of why, how do you stay on track with it, and how do you not get demotivated again? Like you said, you're somebody that needs constant reminders and motivation. Yeah. So what are a couple of things that you can do to keep that stuff in mind?
Yeah, I'll share a few things. I mean, it's a little embarrassing that I need so much reminding, but there's so many ways. So in my phone, actually, I had a reminder pop up just now, actually right here. But so there's a mentor that I follow or used to follow. His name is Brendan Burchard. And I mean, you can go check out his stuff, but he has a lot of tips on YouTube. He's got a lot of videos. But one of the things that he talks about is having reminders. So in your phone, you can program either an alarm if you have the sound space to be able to do that without bothering anyone, or just a reminder. Like for me, it's just a reminder that doesn't make an alarm, but it pops up. And there's a reminder for me that, okay, this is something that's encouraging for me, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it pops up 3 times a day at 3 important times a day that I know that I may be a little weak. So for me, it's at 8:45, which is like my day is started and I just need a little extra gas to go through the morning. And then it's around lunchtime. And during like around 2 o'clock, where the day is a little winding down, you may be running on fumes. And so that's one thing. And he suggests that you choose 3 words that describe who you want to be. So for example, it could be, what were his names? His words were live, love, and matter. Like make a difference, live fully, love openly, whatever. That's kind of his thing. But so when you have that show up and you just had an argument with someone, like you're like, okay, yeah, I need to tone it. I need to dial it back. I need to be me. Like, that's not who I'm like, that's not who I want to be. I want to be this now. And so those kind of reminders, there's also ways that, so when you get home from work, you got a full load on your back, you got a full load in your mind. Don't just walk in like a zombie and dump on whoever's home waiting for you. Like, there's a concept of kind of resetting before going inside, which basically means taking a little breather, even just 5 minutes, meditating a little bit, just having that dump to move on and just be who you want to be with those people. So one trigger, you need triggers for that, which can be anytime you walk into a door, you can trigger your mind. And this is a habit that you develop. So anytime you could walk through a door, you could remind yourself, okay, I want to be super happy JF, not dopey, depressed, whatever, right? And you can even have Post-its around your house or around your apartment, around your workspace, on your screen, like with your words or what you want or what your goals are as reminders. Because I mean, if you're just waking up in the morning, your goals aren't always your number one thought. You might be like, I'm thirsty, or I'm tired, or I'm this. And then just those things, those little triggers. So I've had Post-its in my car. I've had some on my in my kitchen, like everywhere around the house. I have a whiteboard over there with all our goals written out. It's like half my wall over there. Like, it's just whatever works for you. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Like, it's totally silly, but they're reminders. Like, I have Post-its on my doors and just like, it's so, but that works for
dude,
me.
I love it. Yeah. And that's something that, again, like, I think that's really cool that you shared that, because it's not just like a one-time thing. It's got to be something that's ingrained in your head, and it's got to be something that you're constantly reminded of, and that's going to give you the why constantly, and that's going to allow you to continue to do things. I like the idea that you said that you can kind of become a different person when you come home, or when you whatever, because I think a lot of the way that we feel or the emotions that we're feeling can actually be altered by ourselves.
Yes.
If you're tired, you can actually tell yourself that you're not tired, and most of the time you can actually go and do more work. Or if you're really upset about something, you can alter the way that you're feeling. Again, maybe it takes 5 minutes and you sort of need to cool off, but you can feel a different way. So I think that's a lot of what it comes down to, is just like, oh, I'm so tired. I've had such a long day, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to do any of this, versus like, you know what? No, I have some time now. I'm just going to go and do it. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to do this. And the way that you can do that is, again, by constantly reminding yourself why you're doing something. And I think that's super cool, and some different ways to motivate yourself. I feel like a lot of what I do is in my head, and I sort of just like envision it or whatever. And I picture where I want to be and what I want to do. And I've got a whiteboard too. Like, I've got everything written out, and you know what I want to do. But I think that's really interesting and a neat approach. And I love the reminders idea too on the phone.
And I'm going to talk about something else, actually. This is much deeper. I wasn't expecting to talk about this, but it just came to me. So there's a book by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy called Living Forward. And Living Forward is all about creating a life plan. All right. So this is pretty deep. So the whole book is like a handbook on making a GPS for your life. And basically creating goals, not just for your work, but like for your life, for your faith life, your spiritual life, your exercise, your social life, and your work. And it's very relevant in this, like it's really simple. And it just walks you through all the steps. And essentially you read the book, you plan it out, and you take a weekend, or just, well, they say take one day, but usually every year I disappear for a weekend off the grid. I don't answer phones. I don't answer texts. And I just plan. I just think. I just dream I go to like a cottage somewhere. I rent an Airbnb for $200, and like I just think, and what do I want this year? What are my plans this year? What needs to happen for me to like achieve what I want to achieve? And 99% of people have never done this, have never even thought about doing this. You'll do it for work. You'll do it for like these eBay goals, but you're not going to do it for your whole life. But the thing is, if you're only aligned in your work, the rest of your life is going to be out of balance. So it helps, to give an appropriate amount, not an equal amount, but an appropriate amount of attention to every area of your life as it requires it. So I'll disappear. I didn't do it this year, but because of COVID and whatever, but you're able in just one day to dream up things and feel things you never would have at home, because at home, you've got all these distractions. You've got everybody wanting to contact you. You're in your things, but when you're out and just thinking about your goals, magic happens. But anyway, so I just thought I'd mention that. But it's important to set goals that are achievable. But once they're set, you need to have a plan on how to reach them. Because otherwise, they're just another dream that's floating around that you don't like. What I can say, like, so our biggest goal is to make $10,000 a week of sales. But we're not even like, we're making like 4 or 5. So really our goal right now is to consistently make 6. So before we can make 10, we need to make 6. So what do we need to do before we get to 6?
Yeah.
So essentially, to get to your goal, you need to reverse engineer what are all the things that need to happen. Like, let's say 5 steps. What are the 5 steps that need to happen to get to my goal? And I mean, we're kind of talking in eBay terms, but it can be for anything. So the first thing that you need to do is basically define your goal and have like an easy blueprint or list, like you were saying, of things that need to happen. I need to list a certain amount of items. I need to source a certain amount of items. But interview someone or watch videos about someone that has reached your goal and let them tell you how they reached it. And that will save you so much time by interviewing someone or learning about someone that's already done what you want to do. And read books about it, like read 1 or 2 books about what you're trying to do, watch videos, inform yourselves, and just crush it. Go do it. And man, I'm getting fired up here.
we talked a lot about reverse engineering. I think it's one of the most important things with goal setting, because a lot of people, I think, start from the beginning instead of the end. So you might say, oh, I feel like it'd be fun to sell jewelry on eBay. And then you go in and you start listing all the stuff and blah, 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 or whatever. And you start making $500 a month and blah, blah, blah. But then you get to the end of the year and you're like, man, I'm not really where I want to be. And that's because you didn't start. And some people will do this and then find out at the end of the year that it's not even profitable, or that wasn't even worth it, or whatever, right? Like they don't even think about the number side, never mind the goal side. But anyway, a better way to take that is to actually go ahead and look at where you want to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. And then reverse engineer the way to get there. So if it's, I want to make, this amount of money, and the idea is to do it through eBay, then you can go back and look at, okay, well, how many things do I have to sell every single day? Okay, I had to sell that many things. Well, with a 10% sell-through rate, that's how much I need to sell. And then that means I have to buy this much. And that means I have to list this much every single day. And then that will equal that. It's a very simple equation. And as long as you're able to achieve that, then you can get that outcome. So a lot of that will come down to planning that out correctly and actually figuring that out. But that's going to give you a much better result. And again, this can be, we're talking eBay specifically, this can be applied anywhere in life, but that's a much better approach than starting off with really no clue and just doing something because you think it would be fun or because you think it could lead to that outcome, right? You actually had to plan it out and figure out all the steps to get there.
Yeah. And the plan can be really simple. Like it can be just a 1-pager and just having, like, I have terrible handwriting and like, it's just, I have arrows pointing everywhere, but it's just simple. Just to have it written out, to get your thoughts on paper really declutters your mind. And it makes things make sense. And now you have an idea of where you're going. And something that we talked about this earlier, something that Daily Refinement, who's someone that we've listened to his podcast and his teaching and all that stuff, something that he occasionally throws out there is something along the lines of, if you list one item a day that is $10 profit, that means in 365 days, you're going to make $3,650, right? If you list 2, it's going to be double. If you list 5, it's going to be 5 times 5. So how much more money do you want to make this year? And
dude,
just it's that simple. List that many more items that are $10 worth of profit, and you're going to get there. You might not get there right away, but over a certain amount of time, it'll get there. And while we're talking about that, like, consistency is really important, right? So it's better to, when you can, to list 5 items a day, 5 times a week, than to not list at all for the whole week until Saturday and then do 25 listings. eBay doesn't like that. They prefer that, and there's whole reasons for it. We're not going to get into that, but you rank better when you do a little bit of activity every day. And like, just as an example, right before this recording, I was listing and then I stopped listing, and I adjusted prices for all our prices from our highest prices down to like $30. So like thousands and thousands of items. I'm just like tweaking them. And right before our thing started, we had already sold 2 of those items because I tweaked them by like 2% or 5%.
Yeah.
Because it refreshes. When you make a change, it refreshes and it helps your ranking.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And I think a lot of those listing habits and things that you can come up with are going to affect the longevity of your eBay platform. I guess what I'm trying to say is like you say, you need to be consistent with it. You need to have a goal as to what you're coming up with. And I really like Daily Refinement's point with the $10 thing, because again, like, do the math, guys. You want to make 5 times 10, it can come out in a year. Yeah, coming down to those daily listings is going to be much more important than doing them on a weekly basis, because I think a lot of people will procrastinate them or whatever and leave them to the end of the week or the end of the month even or whatever, and just sit down and do a whole bunch. But if you can allocate time every single day, an hour or 2 or whatever it is, and actually get that certain amount done, then you're going to have that outcome that you want. And again, looking at that sort of formula, I mean, the outcome can be really cool in that way of looking at it.
Yeah. And here's kind of a weird thought. You also don't want to grow too fast because you could get overwhelmed. So like, if you're not ready for the sales, that's also bad for your store. So by doing a certain amount, so start with a goal, do a certain amount every day. And then when you see that your goal is either getting you to where you need to go or not, you can adjust it. But at least you're somewhere. You've started. And but if you see, okay, actually, I think I should be doing 10 instead of 5, then you can start doing that. But don't go like all the way to 100 right away. Like, that might be a little too much. And so do what you like. Try and carve out your time, make time for what needs to happen, and then do it consistently, whatever that number is for you.
There's this idea that you could and again, we're talking about goal setting, we're talking about motivation. There's this idea that, okay, I figured out my goal, and that means that I had to list 50 things a day. And this is, I'm going to exaggerate this to make a point. And you start off the first day doing 50 things. And then the next day it's like, okay, I barely made it, but I did another 50 things. And the third day you did it and blah, blah, blah. But guess what? It's not something that's consistent. You can't do that forever. And that's one of the things that, again, going back to your point, you don't want to grow too fast on all these things. But additionally, you don't want to get to a point where you can't keep that up. You're going to burn out. You're going to, it's not going to be something that can last for a long time. So a better approach is to just start with 1 or 2 things a day. Even if you say, okay, I've got 2 hours, so I'm only listing 2 things a day. No matter what, make it a point to get 2 things done a day. And then when you're good with that, you can do that for a month, make it a point to get 5 things done a day. And then make it a point to get whatever, and build like that, as opposed to just setting this super ambitious goal, going in for 5 days, 10 days straight, and then giving up. Because I think a lot of it is having to build it in as a habit. And you can't just build a habit, especially when it's super difficult like that, in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. And I was telling you earlier, I was listening to someone talk, and they said people, and it's totally right, people most often, when they're comparing themselves to other people, they compare other people's finish line or their finishes or where they have an established business with their startup, with their foundation, with like, if you're just starting out and you're comparing yourself to someone who has so much more than you, of course it's going to be discouraging. Like, depending on how you look at it, right? So don't look at it like, oh, I'm jealous of this person because he has all of this. You don't know how much work they put in to get there. Like, you're watching someone who's already run the marathon to get to the end. You're just at you're just at the starting line.
Yeah.
But so instead, when my business partner and I look at videos, we're like, wow, this is inspiring. If this guy, who's no effect, like, depending on the person, maybe doesn't look that smart, or he's obviously not that savvy or whatever, if this person can do it, we can do it too. So let's figure out how he did it, and let's see how we can do it. That's how that's a winning mindset. And you're not always like, if someone else made it, you can do it too. And it's just about figuring out what tools you have and what you need to get there and to get it done.
There are two type of people that will watch that video. There's the ones that will go and be inspired by it and then come up with a plan to reverse engineer it and build a plan that will allow them to get to that level. And then there's another type of person who's going to watch that and be jealous and wonder how it was even possible, and then not take anything away from it other than the fact that they're doing something that you can't.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those people, it's okay. But what you need to do is figure out how you can alter and shift your mindset, so then you can look at those kind of things and then become the person that will reverse engineer it and figure out how to apply it. I love what you say, when it's, if somebody else can do it, why can't you? And I think that's a point that you might look at somebody and say, oh, they have all this. Oh, they might have, oh, they have time. Oh, they have, they have the technology on their side. Oh, they've got this nice photo set, or they've got a shipping table, or whatever it is. Right. And that I could never do that because I don't have that. And that's just you looking for excuses. And you can't build a business off excuses. And that's why a lot of people are going to end up being stuck, because they come up with any reason or excuse as to why they can't do something, instead of trying to look at something and figure out how they can alter it or shift it so it fits their life, and figure out how they can do it.
Yeah. And just remember that when you're looking at someone who's successful, you're wanting what they have, but you don't know what it cost them to get it. You don't know how much time they put in. You don't know what their sacrifice was. You don't know how many sleepless nights they had. You don't know. And some people have like instant success, and good on them, but most people don't. Most people, it really is just day after day, putting the work in and eventually getting there. But I want to say also, I want to come back to rest and balance. So it's important to hustle when it's time to hustle, and then it's important to rest when it's time to rest. So there are a lot of motivators out there that are just saying hustle till you die, basically. And I mean, whatever, that works for them, but that wouldn't work for me. And so it was really important to take care of yourself. Even simple things like getting to bed at a reasonable time. And like, there's a book out there. So I used to struggle with insomnia for the longest time, up until recently. And there's the one book that helped me out the most. We're really throwing out referrals here, and we're not making money on these books, but we should be. But it's called Say Goodnight to Insomnia. So anyone who's struggling with insomnia, if you read this book, I mean, it really helped me out. So it talks about a bunch of different things, and just a lot of people who struggle with insomnia, a big part of it is up here in your mind. It's what you put in your mind and what happens in your routine all before bed. Like the 90 minutes before you go to bed are probably the most important for your sleep cycle. And so if you're watching TV up until the minute you go to bed, you're not going to sleep as well as if you would have been reading. And if you're reading something maybe spiritual, as opposed to like some action type book, maybe you'll be sleeping better reading like a calm book as opposed to like an action, and just all these kinds of things. But so it's about having a little bit of balance when you can have it, and not just adding and adding and adding, right? So take out what doesn't bring your goals further and put in a little time for your dreams. And it'll pay eventually. And that's another thing. You got to be patient, because it's not always instant gratification. Maybe it'll be more work and a longer time than you may have thought. But if you continue to persevere, when you look, again, we're going to talk about the marathon. It's a marathon. And when you look behind and everybody's like giving up and they're like, they just walked off the track and you're still running, eventually, like, a lot of people don't even finish the marathon. You could finish a marathon by walking and still maybe win a prize.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
true.
Like, so half the battle is just starting and just continuing to walk even when you're tired. But you got to have those times of rest in there.
For sure. Like, I think you guys have been watching the show and you're watching the podcast or whatever, a lot of what we talk about is very practical. We're all focused around practicality. And that's the same approach that I think we take here when we talk about motivation and goal setting, all these things. We're not looking for you. We're not giving you these super ambitious ideas of altering your life or altering the way that you do things or things. We're looking at little ways that you can improve your daily habits and ideally come up with a schedule or an idea or whatever, spark that inspiration that will allow you to achieve your goals. But again, it all comes down to that balance and figuring out what works for you. And a lot of it are just going to be little tiny practical changes that you can make on your daily routine or daily life that's going to allow you to get to a certain point. And I think that's a really important thing that you should focus on, is not to be overwhelmed by these concepts, but to take away what you can from them and figure out how you can make little changes as opposed to, I'm going to change my life tomorrow.
Yeah. That's another thing. Like if you're sometimes a radical change is good, but you need to be ready for that change, right? You got to have the oomph behind it to be able to reach it. So it's a lot more achievable when you take it in bite-sized chunks. And that's part of reverse engineering the dream, reverse engineering the goal, is that when you have it all laid out. Oh, that's something else that I forgot to say, is when you have the things laid out, have a goal that's time sensitive in the sense that, okay, so in 2022, next year, by March, I want to have done this amount of listings, or I want to have this amount of suppliers that I've had. So if I want this amount of suppliers, it means that I need to make one new connection a month or one new connection every quarter, or just whatever, right? And so because that will make it time sensitive, because as we were talking earlier, some people procrastinate a lot and wait to the last minute to do things. But by putting a time limit, like a reasonable time limit to your goals, it'll just give you that extra, I forget what the term is called, but that extra little push, because you're going to feel that urgency. It'll give you that sense of urgency to actually get it done, whether you're a procrastinator or not, because you're going to remember why.
A procrastinator without a due date will just procrastinate for the rest of their life.
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Right. So, and that's, I think a lot of people can relate to that. If you are a procrastinator, is that you just don't get things done. And I'm naturally a procrastinator. So I put due dates on everything that I do. And a lot of them still happen at the last minute. But you know what? Everything that I set to get done gets done at the due date, which is really important. And again, these don't have to be super ambitious things. And when it comes to larger goals, they have to be reasonable and achievable. But I think setting them up so then you can actually have a day when they have to be finished by is really important. And I think that could kind of bring us into one more thing that I think we should just touch on here, which I know you briefly touched on, is patience throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that people do when they set these goals and when they get sort of in the motivation zone and all these things is they don't realize the patient aspect of it, which is the idea that things aren't going to happen overnight and that you might be 3 months in and that's when you might give up because you don't realize that this is actually a 2-year plan, not a 3-month kind of quick thing that you can get done. And people get so demotivated by that. And it's just like, oh yeah, I want to do this and blah, blah. Oh, it's going to take 2 years. Never mind. But what they don't realize is that that's not, first of all, it's not that big of a span of time in the grand scheme of things. And to change your life for the better or do some of the things that we're talking about in a 2 to 5 year period is crazy. I mean, it's life-changing stuff. But additionally, is you can't look at it. It's like when you sign up, I mean, everybody's been to school for the most part. When you go to a course, you remember that first day when they give you the outline and it's like all these assignments and all these tests and everything that you're going to be doing throughout the thing. You can't look at it like that. What you had to do is you just need to approach it on a weekly basis and do whatever is appropriate for that week, not looking at the entire thing and becoming overwhelmed. I think that's what a lot of people lose track of. And that's where the patience really comes into play.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so important to be patient and gentle with yourself when it comes to your goals, because you're going to set goals based on the information that you have today. And then whatever life is going to happen and you're going to do what you can. And even if you hit your Like, even if you do everything that you do, maybe your goal will not be achieved. Maybe it will, but maybe your goal was too easy and now you need to shoot higher. But it's so important not to beat yourself up if it doesn't happen as fast as you thought. And if you need to adjust your goal or adjust your timeline, it's okay. And just have, like I said, have the battles not giving up. And it all goes back to comparing yourself to, oh, like this person's achieving all this, and with one video they're making this much money, or with they're like, you don't see what's happening in the background. You don't see all the trail that they've left behind. And like, most of the people that are sharing their sales with you are mostly sharing their best ones, not all the little ones. And some don't even say how much they paid for things, but anyway, that doesn't really matter. But so not all sales are amazing and exciting. Like, it's just a process. And be patient with yourself, patient with others as well that you're working with. And if it's not going the way that you want it to, what's the lesson there for you to learn? All right. So there's a lot of things that happened this year that I didn't think were going to happen, or that I thought were going to happen faster, or that they happened completely different, or that, like, there's some goals that I was not even close to reaching, like not even close. And that just means that I need to adjust like certain things. And there's things that I need to learn that I don't know how to do right now. So I have a plan for those things. And we talked about it earlier. But so again, go back to who's achieved what I want to achieve. What are they doing? How are they doing it? What equipment do they have? What platforms do they use? What's their approach? How would I do that? Like, if I follow them, be a constant student, be a sponge of information from their experiences. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that share really good information, but you need to be looking for something specific to actually find what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, like you say, looking back and learning from what you've accomplished and what you haven't will allow you to have a much greater idea. And again, that's learning from it as opposed to giving up based on it. You know,
Yes.
You don't want to look back and say, oh, I spent all this time doing this, I'm nowhere near my goal, so I'm done. You need to look back and say, okay, where did I do well? Where did I succeed? And where is there room for improvement? Where are there some things that I should be working on and try to change so I can accomplish it moving forward? And I think that's kind of what we were talking about is setting goals for the year. And we'll have another video probably about this, maybe talking about, you know, in the new year, what we accomplished and what we're looking to achieve and all these things. But looking into a new year and figuring out where you can learn from your mistakes and how you can improve them, and maybe set a more realistic goal or whatever it might be going into the new year.
Yeah. And a big part of it also is about not beating yourself up. Is a lot of people focus only on the result, on the end, but you got to focus also on the progress. So there's some goals that we didn't reach, but we still had a lot of amazing things happen throughout the year. And even though we didn't reach those goals, we did make progress. So it's important to have little celebrations and like internalize those little victories and those milestones. Like, so again, we wanted to hit 6,000 a week, but maybe we're hitting 4 or 5. So, I mean, that's still good. And, you know, whatever it is. So maybe we had like this gigantic goal that we didn't realize was ridiculous, and we're actually over here now, but we're still higher than where we used to be. And so focusing not only on the end, but on the process and on the progress, and take the time to give yourself a little tap on the back, because not a lot of people will do that for you. And that's totally fine. Be like, you know what? We did good this year. Like, we did good this month. We did good this week. Take a minute to just think back on what are the good things that happened. Not only the bad things, we're always going to think about the bad things, but take some time to think about what's the good stuff that happened and be like, that was a good thing. And try and remember those things as well.
Things happen on like a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And I think people always never quite notice how far they've come over a period of time, because everything's always about, you know, just micro improvements over the day. Like as an example, I'll look back to my older YouTube videos and be amazed as to like how far I've come, even though it doesn't feel like it right now. It's only when I go back and I see what it was like in the past, how much I've achieved. Or I'll go back and see how many eBay listings I was doing at the time, or how many sales were happening at the time versus now. And that's when it's like, oh, wow, okay, so we are actually doing better. Because on a micro, it could be like, oh, we didn't reach our goal. We didn't achieve anything this year. This year's a right, like whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But then you go and you look at all this stuff and you go, okay, actually, no, wait a second. Look at this improvement, whatever it is, even in the way that I speak in a video, or in the amount of listings I can do in a day now with these new processes, or in the amount of sales that we're getting. And all these things are going to be things that can help motivate you more and help you realize that you are actually making progress.
Yeah. So that's all. These are all things that people need to take into consideration and make it your own, right? So like, we made a lot of suggestions, things that work for us, things that have worked for others. You can pick and choose from what makes sense for your life and make it your own. So I think that's pretty good for today. I think so. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for watching. We really enjoy making these videos for you guys. I mean, we talk about it often off screen. Like, we have a really good time making them. And we're doing this to help you, to share our experience with you, and to answer your questions as well. So a lot of these videos that we're making are based off of questions that we've been asked, just like things that we wish that we would have known when we were just starting out. So make sure you like and subscribe and share it with your circles, and comment down below what are some of your questions and things that you're wondering. Bounce it around in our videos, and we'll see you next time on the eBay Resale Zone.